Cloud will lift, break, and the rain will ease. So by the afternoon, warm sunshine will be plentiful across the UK. 16 for Glasgow, 18 for Belfast, widely 20 to 24 Celsius across the heart of England and Wales. But as temperatures rise, first signs of showers starting to appear in the southwest, and then those showers, even some thunderstorms around the English Channel coast, they'll develop quite widely across England and Wales during Saturday night. Hit and miss, as is often the case, but there could be some really quite heavy rain associated with these, again, especially towards the south coast. That'll keep things mild overnight, but a fresher feel for Scotland and Northern Ireland, where it's mostly a sunny start to Sunday, and we keep the sunny spells in the far north throughout the day. Otherwise, cloud and showers drifts north across northern England into southern Scotland during the day. Further sunshine to come later for parts of the south, and 23, 24 Celsius still possible. Monday, further rain or showers in places. Tuesday looks warm.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question.
That's two questions, actually. That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbury, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbury, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm going to have to get the studio spick and span for my Mark Meets guest. It is none other than the Queen of Clean herself, Channel 4 star Aggie Mackenzie, co-host, of course, of How Clean Is Your House? Can she help me with my stubborn stains? In the big question, with male suicide on the rise, is society now too hard on men? Are we at risk of demonising half of the adult population? And has feminism gone too far? Plus my all-star panel, another topical game show, and in my big opinion, the EU have lost the plot. Thank God we're out. Plus, mass murderer Levi Bellfield wants to get married. Let's just say I won't be buying him a toaster. 2 cracking hours, we don't do boring. Remember that? I'll see you after the headlines with Polly.
Mark, thank you. The top stories tonight. The Prime Minister is going to visit Northern Ireland on Monday amid a political standoff at Stormont. The Democratic Unionist Party today blocked the election of an Assembly Speaker. That's in protest at the Northern Ireland Protocol, which the DUP says puts peace at risk in the country. Sinn Féin leader Michelle O'Neill says the DUP's failure to cooperate leaves the government unable to function.
Not tomorrow, and not for a moment longer, can the DUP deny democracy, punish the public and boycott this Assembly and Executive and prevent us from putting money into people's pockets. Every party in this chamber told the electorate that they would turn up on day one. Well, the DUP have failed on day one.
Well, in other news today, Boris Johnson did not apologise to Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe today after she described the massive impact his false claims had on her in her 6-year detention while in Iran. The former British aid worker met the Prime Minister at Number 10 today. When he was Foreign Secretary in 2017, Mr Johnson said Miss Zaghari-Ratcliffe was arrested after training journalists in Iran, something the authorities there seized upon to justify her imprisonment. The British-Iranian national told the Prime Minister she'd lived for years in the shadow of his words. The UK and Norway have signed an agreement to boost security in Europe. Boris Johnson and his Norwegian counterpart Jonas Gahr met at Number 10 Downing Street today and declared the joint declaration underscored their full support for all Nordic partners to enhance regional defence. The news comes as Finland announced their wish to join NATO, with Sweden deciding in the coming days. A former police officer has been found guilty of gross misconduct after trying to form an inappropriate sexual or emotional relationship with a victim of crime. PC Shiva Hithicharan got hold of the woman's phone number and contacted her several times before lying about reopening her case in order to get to her home. A tribunal has ruled the former Met officer should have been sacked if he hadn't already quit the force. Several people were injured in a stabbing attack on a commuter train in Germany this morning. It happened during rush hour at about 8 o'clock on the express route to Aachen. Luckily, a plainclothes police officer happened to be on board the train. The suspect was overpowered and then arrested. German police are investigating the incident as a potential terror attack. Here, the Queen's horse was named Supreme Champion at Day 2 of the Royal Windsor Horse Show today. Smiling and looking on, feeling fairly relaxed, Her Majesty was there to see her 5-year-old grey dun mare win. There'd been speculation Her Majesty may not make it to the annual event after missing the state opening of Parliament on Tuesday. It's the first major event in the Queen's Platinum Jubilee festivities calendar, celebrating her 70-year reign. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. And now it's time for Mark Dolan Tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight, a packed show for you this evening. In the big question, is society now too hard on men? Has the feminist pendulum swung too far in the opposite direction? Are we now wrongly demonising men for all social ills? We'll hear from all sides on that one. My Mark Meets guest is the Queen of Clean herself, Aggie Mackenzie, Channel 4 star of How Clean Is Your House? She'll be dealing with some of these stubborn stains we've got here in the studio. In the news agenda, we'll be asking, should women get period leave? Is it still worth going to university? Is the €184 million jackpot too much money? Celeb cooking fails, and would you be willing to pay shops a fine for returning unwanted items? Tackling those topics and many more is SAS hero and best-selling author Phil Campion. Commentator and writer, a very old friend of the show, Mo Lovett. And brand new to Mark Dolan Tonight, a warm welcome to reputation consultant Justin Doherty. Justin, welcome to the programme. I want to hear from you throughout the show, mark@gbnews.uk. What an absolutely cracking 2 hours we've got for you. And here's the golden rule of this programme. We don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it. Big guests, big topics, big debate, and big opinions. Let's start with this one. The World Health Organization have teamed up with obese health expert Bill Gates, a billionaire tech guru with an unsettling passion for vaccines. This is a needle-wielding nerd who has penetrated more humans than Mick Jagger and Tom Jones put together. The Microsoft founder seems to be the go-to expert when it comes to pandemic control. He's even written a book about it. Here it is, How to Prevent the Next Pandemic. Blimey, haven't we done enough damage trying to prevent the current one? Interesting stuff. Well, that book is on sale now. I'm not sure he's done his homework. Take a look at this. Bill Gates admits we didn't understand COVID had a fairly low fatality rate. What's he on about? It was clear at the start of the pandemic in early 2020 that this was a virus which would be mild or non-existent for most and which would target vulnerable groups, the very old and those with a high body mass index. Talk about rewriting history. And Gates, along with the zero COVID zealots in the WHO, want to create a new vaccine that stops transmission, as do the pharmaceutical industry, who anticipate another gold rush of jabs. I suggest we give up our obsession with this virus, make the vaccines that we have available to those in vulnerable groups, and let the rest of the public get on with their lives. Because notwithstanding that it's good that we have the jab for those who need it, the worrying number of people with vaccine-related injuries and those killed by the jab, even if it's a tiny minority, suggests to me that the vaccine should now be focused on those who risk hospitalisation and death. I have to laugh at the number of people that get COVID and tweet, "Imagine how bad it would have been if I hadn't been vaccinated." Who knows? You might have been better off. Vaccine king Bill Gates himself has got COVID again after having more jabs in the arm than a 90s rock star. He's tweeted about it. "I've tested positive for COVID," he says. "I'm experiencing mild symptoms and I'm following the experts' advice by isolating until I'm healthy again." Why doesn't he isolate for the next 10 years? Not a ringing endorsement for vaccine-loving Bill's tiny prick, is it? Now, I'm no expert. And don't forget, I'm triple vaccinated, so an anti-vaxxer I ain't. But Bill Gates isn't an expert, I'm not an expert, and I'm worried about an unelected tech entrepreneur having such an undue influence on our lives. And I don't mean, by the way, by the invention of that annoying office assistant character on his computers, which still triggers me. And that takes me to the World Health Organization, who, after 2 years of devastating, undemocratic and inhuman pandemic policies, have become the World Hell Organization. After all, they sided with Chinese lies and obfuscation at the start of the pandemic, accepting Beijing's bullshit about the origins of the virus. The World Health Organization are in Xi Jinping's back pocket. Doesn't sound very healthy to me. They are the ones who pushed for these ruinous lockdowns, inspired by the Chinese Communist Party, which were inconceivable to Western nations before the start of the pandemic, and which went against all pre-pandemic planning in the free world. In fact, one of the few countries in the world that ignored this mad policy of lockdowns were the Swedes, whose excess death rate in the course of the pandemic was actually lower than in the 3 years previously. And now, our own beloved government, having escaped the clutches of the EU, are considering signing up to a global treaty that will allow this World Health Organization to dictate our lives and radically change our society, our healthcare policies and economy in the event of another outbreak. Someone sneezes in Shanghai or Beijing, and it's game over for all of us. There's not much point leaving the EU to retrieve sovereignty if we hand unprecedented and potentially unlimited powers to a dystopian global body that, in my view, got the pandemic so wrong, and for which we're now paying the price. 6 million people on an NHS waiting list, potentially rising to 12 million, a divided, angrier and poorer society, 2 trillion quid's worth of debt, uneducated, damaged kids, untreated other illnesses, and the cost of living crisis, which is in fact the cost of lockdown crisis. Why doesn't Bill Gates go back to doing what he's actually good at, making tatty computers and operating systems like Windows 7, which runs slower than an episode of Midsummer Murders? And the World Health Organization can do one too. They are the ultimate architects of the failed policy of trying to control a respiratory virus, something that has never been attempted or achieved in human history. The scenes of madness playing out in China right now prove just that, with cats and dogs being beaten to death in the streets and millions locked in their homes, many starving and begging for food and provisions. I would love to see the World Health Organization disbanded after the damage they've done. But the least we can do is disassociate ourselves as a country with this now discredited organisation, not go to bed with them and fund their land grab of our country and our lives. The World Health Organization can go to hell. Moving on to another important issue. I voted Remain in 2016, but thank God we're out. I'm loving Brexit. It's annoying all the right people. God bless each and every one of you that voted for it. And here's what we're missing. Take a look. Interpretive dance in the Assembly. The Commission moves in mysterious ways. Strictly madness. If you think that's bad, how about this gem? Blimey, Ursula von der Leyen's let herself go. It's enough to make you scream. We've seen the European Union tear up the rule book over vaccine supplies and ignore business contract law when they went after AstraZeneca, who make a vaccine that Emmanuel Macron called ineffective, probably because it was British, and which Angela Merkel, the most overrated politician of the last 3 decades, said she probably wouldn't have. Their behaviour during the vaccine row was symptomatic of the culture of that place. Arrogance, dishonesty and naked politics. And we're seeing it all over again with our beloved Northern Ireland, the jewel in this country's crown. The needless politicisation and weaponisation of this country's geography has got to be an all-time low for Brussels. By needlessly and overzealously policing that invisible border down the Irish Sea, the EU have knowingly restarted the troubles, with unionist groups in Northern Ireland increasingly restless and angry, and with the DUP today announcing they will not participate in a Northern Ireland administration until the protocol is resolved. This protocol, which disgracefully divides our country, is about as useful as a condom in a monastery, existing purely to prevent a hard border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, something the Republic would never do and something the UK would never do. So why the hell do we have it? I wonder if it's punishment for Brexit. Of course, we should never have signed up to the protocol in the first place, but you've got to hand it to Boris Johnson, who is the arch-pragmatist. He does like to get things done, and I think he knew there would be trouble ahead. And in the end, this protocol will be considered not fit for purpose and eventually chucked out. I think that's a calculation he made. If we tear up the Northern Ireland Protocol, the EU are threatening retaliatory action, and in particular, trade tariffs. And we, of course, would be within our rights to retaliate. And that's exactly what the citizens of 27 European countries need right now, isn't it? With inflation running high, an increase in the cost of goods. Good luck with that. Don't forget, we buy more from them than they buy from us. Do the math. We win that battle every time. The EU, as with all things Brexit, cannot hurt us without hurting themselves. The Northern Ireland Protocol, and particularly its execution, is a punishment beating for Brexit. The truth is hard, the truth hurts, and the truth is a painful one for the European Union, which is that we left. Get over it. A member state, the UK, right? A member state, Britain, that is connected by a land border to an ongoing member state, the Irish Republic, left the bloc, which makes fully protecting the single market impossible. Get over it. And I'm pretty sure that if an independent Scotland led by Nicola Sturgeon applied to Brussels for membership to the EU would immediately get over it themselves. They would more than happily turn a blind eye to their single market boundaries in order to welcome Scotland with open arms and once again punish Britain. Because all of this is politics, not economics. If the EU won't accept a sensible negotiated arrangement, one that respectfully acknowledges their single market, then we will have no choice but to dump the Northern Ireland Protocol, restore peace to communities, reinstate a Northern Ireland administration and unleash the huge potential of an independent sovereign Britain. And if it comes to it, let's have a trade war with Europe. We're good at winning wars in Europe. Mark my words, Britain will prosper in the years and decades to come from our newfound independence. There will, of course, be bumps in the road, but it will be a success, especially if we do Brexit properly. And the EU won't like it, of course. Tough luck. Get over it. C'est la vie, mes amis. Now, don't get me started on this guy. Levi Bellfield, a man responsible for the murder of 3 innocent women and the attempted murder of others. A man whose ex-girlfriend described him as 6 foot of pure evil. Well, he seems to have fallen in love with a crazed fan who has been writing him letters in prison. Bellfield has now approached the authorities saying that he would like to marry this woman. But it seems the Home Office, in a rare bout of common sense, are going to give this one short shrift. The fact that this is even in the headlines is an embarrassment to the justice system. Characters like Bellfield should be seen and not heard. Stripped not just of their freedom, but of any ability to shape the national conversation and remind the families of his victims of his existence. He wants to get married, but I'd like to see him in a ball and chain. I'd like to see someone tie the knot on his body. In sickness and in health, well, he's definitely sick. Till death do us part, we can only dream. This guy doesn't deserve love or romance. The only intimate partner he should have access to is Big Jim on the upper bunk. Bellfield is a bell end, and the only thing he should be married to is a life sentence. Reacting to the big stories of the day is my all-star panel tonight. A welcome return to the programme of writer and national coordinator for debating matters, Mo Lovett, former SAS soldier and best-selling author Phil Campion, and government crisis advisor and reputation management expert Justin Doherty. Justin, welcome to the show. I'll start with you. First of all, Levi Bellfield. What a joke. This guy wants to get married.
It's awful, and I couldn't agree with you more. He should not be heard. He's forfeited his right to a voice, and I think for his sake and for society's sake, he should be kept out of the news and out of sight, and he should serve that sentence.
Mo Lovett, I'm bothered that we're even talking about this.
Yes, I know what you mean. I was thinking that as the sting came up, and I was talking to the detective who was on Colin Brazier's show yesterday, who said that not only is Bellfield responsible for Millie Dowler and the other crimes that he's known for, but there's a whole range of crimes that are associated with this guy that just haven't come to prosecution. So this guy is a monster. It's really hard to think of another word. You know, those girls, and I think they were all girls, weren't they? They didn't get the chance to get married. Their families haven't had the chance to kind of celebrate all the joys of a life. So why on earth should he have even this glimpse of a small light on the horizon for him? No chance.
Phil Campion, Levi Bellfield is mocking the judicial system, and he's mocking the victims and the families of his victims.
It's a product of a judicial system which, in my opinion, is far too soft. The only thing I could offer that man is an OBE, one behind the ear. That's it, bust. You're taking taxpayers' money now to keep you alive for someone we never want to see this side of the wire. In that case, he's better off that side of a box and 6 foot under, as far as I'm concerned. The fact that he's still breathing riles me when he's been proven, you know, without reasonable doubt, he's been proven to be such a monster. You know, he shouldn't be here anymore.
Justin, when are the EU going to wake up and smell the Northern Ireland Protocol coffee?
The Northern Ireland Protocol is completely bonkers. We have this artificial line down the middle of our country. No other country in the world has an artificial customs border down the middle. So it is completely bonkers. And of course, nobody is behaving well in this whole issue. The EU has weaponised the protocol and is using it to attempt to make us in the UK suffer. I'm afraid the DUP is weaponising it as well. The DUP received 21% of the vote in the election last week. and only 6% of voters in Northern Ireland cited the border and the protocol as a significant issue. The real issues in Northern Ireland are the cost of living and the healthcare crisis. So nobody is coming out of this issue well at the moment, and it does need to be sorted out, but I think people need to get this into perspective.
Yes, I mean, clearly, Phil, you have fought heroically to protect the integrity and boundaries and values of this country. How do you feel we've treated Northern Ireland in the last couple of years?
I get the feeling that the disruption that Brexit has caused for Northern Ireland could actually escalate things again there, which would be a great shame, because a lot of people have worked tirelessly for a very long time to get this to the stage where it is. And as it is, it's still on a bit of a tipping point with various organisations that haven't gone away but simply rebranded themselves and maybe got a political wing now. Do you know what I mean? So it's disturbing that, as you sort of like alluded to, we're going to get a kick in the teeth for leaving the Europeans that's going to unsettle our apple cart. And it'll be a great shame because, to be fair, there's many great people over there. I've got lots of friends there on both sides of the wire. And, to see them unsettled because of this, it's a crime.
Yeah, Mo Lovett, do we want to see an organisation like the World Health Organisation, an unelected cabal of zero-COVID zealots, decide the next time this country locks down?
Do you know what? I thought you hit on something in your introduction, Mark. You know that little paperclip that used to pop up and interfere in your day's work when you didn't want it to? I think Bill Gates has his ilk have sort of become like those little paperclips. The global political class that want to micromanage every element of our lives are just absolutely out of touch with reality. I mean, I think all of this is about micromanaging us. They use it through "we'll keep you safe" and all the rest of it. And I'm no fan of transnational organisations. I'm no fan of these global organisations because they undermine national sovereignty. Now, I know you mentioned that the Western countries copied China in kind of locking down, but I don't want to let the Western governments get away with that. I don't think they just kind of copied China just with no thought of their own. But what happened is when they looked across and thought, oh, we could do that too, we ought to hold them responsible for that decision to do that too. But look at the kickback they got. In this country, I think Boris was quite happy to end lockdowns because of the political campaigns against it, the Together campaign and the like, the Canadian truckers. All around the world, there were these mass groundswell of people kind of challenging their national governments to behave in a way that to not behave in a way that they weren't happy with. And that's the problem with these kind of transnational organisations and global organisations. It just removes any kind of democratic accountability and any sense that a country's sovereignty. So I'm with you on that. Let's get rid of these paperclip organisations.
Should we be concerned about this, Justin, the idea of an unelected global cabal of figures, scientific influencers, deciding the very essence of our society?
Yes, of course we should, and I completely agree with Mo. I mean, the direction of travel, it looks like it's going in the wrong way. What we should be doing is we should be listening to ordinary people, we should be empowering people, we should be trusting individuals, because guess what? Ordinary people, we are the best judges of these issues. We can judge our own sense of risk. We don't need some unelected, unaccountable, distant body with whom we have no relationship and we have no control or power or say over. So I think trust the people, put the power back into individuals.
Phil, do you think Bill Gates has too much influence on public health globally?
Yeah, I think he should keep his nose out of it, if I'm perfectly honest. He's obviously funding, stumping up money and putting money into research, which you could argue is a good thing. But he's also making a tremendous amount of money off the back of it as well. So, like you said, when it becomes, these organisations, they are overstepping the mark. This whole pandemic thing, for me, from the very start, could have been sorted out with a lot of common sense at grassroots level, at the people's level. A lot of common sense would have saved a lot of ag on the whole situation. So, yeah, to watch Bill Gates marauding around like he's, this and that for the pandemic, it doesn't sit well with me at all, no.
I couldn't agree more. What are your thoughts on this, Mark, at gbnews.uk? Mick is straight in there. Dear Mark, the Gates Foundation is the second biggest contributor to the WHO, so Bill Gates will have a big say in how we live our lives, eating insects lab-grown meat, regular vaccinations, all for our own good, though, and not for profit. Mick, thanks for that. What's your view? Plus, are you ready for a trade war with the EU in order to get Brexit properly done? Let me know your thoughts. mark@gbnews.uk is the email for the whole show. Very excited about our Mark Meets guest very shortly. 10 o'clock, Aggie Mackenzie, the Queen of Clean, Channel 4 star of How Clean Is Your House. She'll be here to spruce up the studio. Maybe she can do something about my barnet as well. Also in the question coming up, is society now too hard on men? Plus, we've got our news agenda later this hour. Should women have period holidays? So much to get through. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbury, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbury, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Levi Bellfield, an awful murderous monster, wants to get married. Well, Alex says, hey Mark, Millie Dowler should be here with us today. Her life was robbed by that very monster. On the EU, this from Alan, bring the EU trade war on. Brexit was meant to mean Brexit. For heaven's sakes, let's just do it. Well, the mood music is that our indomitable Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is seriously considering tearing up the Northern Ireland Protocol, and it can't come too soon. You know what they say about bullies, you've got to stand up to them. Coming up later in this show at 10 o'clock, my Mark Meets guest is the Channel 4 star of How Clean Is Your House, the legend that is Aggie Mackenzie. She'll clean up the studio and, let's be honest, absolutely filthy, mainly because of Patrick Christie's, who's a very talented broadcaster, but oh, what a mucky puppy. Also, in the news agenda, should women get period leave? Is it still worth going to university? It's £184 million too much in the Euro jackpot, and celeb cooking fails. And would you be willing to pay a shop a fine for returning unwanted items? Zara are charging just under £2 now for you to return one of their items to a collection point. We'll get to all of that very shortly, but it's time now for the big question, in which we tackle a major story of the day from multiple points of view. Tonight, the latest statistics show that suicide is the leading cause of death of men under the age of 44. In fact, men account for 3 out of 4 lives lost to suicide. Men have for a long time been blamed for so-called toxic masculinity, and even the male clothing item of the tie, something I'm wearing tonight, was last year called out as an outdated phallic symbol of male rule in the New Zealand Parliament. Whilst feminists have rightly battled for decades for equality and parity with men in the workplace and in society, has the pendulum swung too far in the other direction? Do we now blame men for all of the ills of the world And are we at risk of demonising half of the human population? To debate this, I'm delighted to welcome feminist writer and broadcaster Kellie J. Keane. Live from the United States, we also have author and commentator Karen Strawn. And from Sydney, Australia, campaigner for men's rights, best-selling author and sex expert Bettina Arndt. And from my panel tonight, the ultimate man, the action man himself, proper male role model, I should say, SAS hero Phil Campion. Phil, great to see you. Of course, you'll be reacting to all the stories we'll discuss on tonight's show. But let's talk about whether society is now too hard on men.
It can be in certain areas. And the suicide rates, which, you know, I've gone a long way to campaign with this, OK? The suicide rates are unacceptable. They really are. Mental health. Mental health is where a lot of this starts. And men's mental health is not where it should be in a lot of people. And it's affected by a number of things. And it's not taken serious enough, I don't think. You know, we had this thing on the last time I came on and we spoke about should we have a minister for men. Of course we should have a minister for men. We need a minister for men because we've got issues for men. I'm not downtreading female issues at all, in any way, shape or form. In fact, I support them, I respect them, and I go along with them. But when it comes to some of the issues that men have got, they need addressing. They really do. And yes, society is quite harsh.
Are there examples in our modern world of life being tougher for men than women, such as the men, for example, tend to be statistically at greater risk of violence than women tend to be. There are more men in prison, of course, longer prison sentences.
If you were stood in the pub, right?
Yeah.
If you were stood in the pub, especially in the pub where I come from, right, and it booted off, and somebody came in the pub, say, I don't know, somebody came in and attacked the pub, it would be the men that would be expected to step forward to deal with it. That would be the norm, wouldn't it? That would be the norm. That's how it's...
That would be the protocol.
You know, that would be the protocol.
If it was a sinking ship, women and kids first, right?
Look, that's the whole thing, isn't it? You know, we're protectors and providers, and that's the way it is. And I think it gets lost sometimes. I'm not saying that women can't protect and provide as well, but just the way that the roles are sometimes teed up, of course it lends men to feel that, you know, sometimes there's pressure on them that might not be there if they were a woman.
Yeah.
And there are major issues because they say the statistics stack up against men. The suicide rates are insane.
Yeah.
The fact that you've got more chance under the age of 45 of committing suicide, taking your own life, as opposed to dying from anything else, that is an incredible statistic. That's insane.
Well, does society hate men now? Do we have
I don't think society hates men.
Men-phobic,
no, I don't
toxic
think
masculinity?
There'll be a few of them out there. There'll be a few of them out there. I'm sure there's a few of them stacking up to have a go at me now. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Look,
you're lucky that they're down the line, otherwise you'd be in trouble.
That's it. Put me behind glass or something now, not because of COVID, to protect me from these people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, too right. Well, let's bring all of those people into that conversation. What a fantastic selection of experts we have. Kellie J. Keane, let me start with you. Great to have you back on the show. Do you think that we are now overly tough on men in modern society?
Well, no. I mean, 90% of all single-parent families are women, so we do get left holding the baby. So I think maybe there is a crisis in masculinity, as in some men need to just man up. And that doesn't mean that they can't suffer mental health. That just means you need to face your demons and sort it out. And I don't really see that that's society's issue. I mean, you know, there's lots of things that go on for women and men. Maybe women are better at dealing with it, but that's up to men to actually sort it out. You know, 90% of single-parent families, like, women are doing the hard stuff, staying behind, looking after the kids. And men just seem to get off scot-free. So, no, I don't think society's too tough.
However, Kellie J. Keane, the bottom line is that men do the manual labour. It's a majority of men that go to war or in the front line when it comes to civilian policing.
Yeah, that's right. And it's the minions, isn't it? It's not powerful men that go to war. It's not powerful men doing manual labour. It's powerful men making the decisions to make weaker men do the manual labour and go to war. I mean, if women were calling the wars and we were causing all the destruction in the world, I'd agree with you, but we're not. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's power structures that leave some men doing some really terrible jobs that require, like, fatal accidents.
Karen Strawn, you are a US-based author and commentator. It's time for men to man up. Suck it up.
I think that they've been sucking it up for quite many centuries now. Also, I'm Canadian.
Oh, forgive me. What an insult. I apologise.
No, I probably shouldn't admit to that. But no, I take issue with Kelly saying, well, 90% of single parent families are led by mothers. Well, why is that? There's no mother on the planet who needs to demand sole custody of a child. And yet I know a ton of men who would love to share custody with their exes, would love to share custody to be involved in their kids' lives on a 50-50 basis or a 60-40 basis, right? Not just 10% of them. And yet they're blocked by the courts, and they're blocked by the very women that she's asking you to sympathize with. So I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, I know the heartbreak of, I know the heartbreak of losing a child, okay, because I have lost a stepson. And, and I see these articles, I think it was the Daily Mail several years ago, the agony of being a 50-50 mom, right?
Now, we've just cut back to me, please, Sebastian. We've just lost Karen. We'll come back to her very shortly, Canadian commentator. We're also going to get the thoughts of a campaigner for men's rights, the best-selling author and sex expert, Bettina Arndt, who's poised to join us to contribute her thoughts about this. How do you see the direction of travel, Phil, in terms of how men are treated in society?
First of all, the girl there who's saying that weak men go to war, I don't see weak men kicking around on the battlefield, all right? I seriously don't. So that statement was absolutely ballooned up.
The minions.
Powerful men make the decisions.
How do you feel about...
Weak men go to war, but I would argue that and sometimes say that stupid men make the decisions and brave men sort it out. All right, so she's completely topsy-turvy on that.
Or do you think she's part of the problem? Minions. She said minions.
Yeah, I mean, minions. You are minions. Go away, minions. She is part of the problem there. What's an absolute... Where did you find her? Where did you find her?
The internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? Go to scuttle off, love. Do you know what I mean? Unbelievable thing to say. And if I spoke to her like that, it would be demeaning. Now, I wouldn't speak to her like that. I'm more respectful of her. Do you know what I mean? But that's the attitude that she's portraying towards me, a fighting man, a soldier who served my country. You're a minion. You're a weak man. Really? Really? Unbelievable. What a shocking thing to say.
And of course it was men who physically powered the Industrial Revolution, who built the roads, who dug the sewers, the underground tunnels,
absolutely.
Who went to war.
Even if they argue, well, we didn't get the chance to do that. You weren't rushing down the road to do it, were you? That's another fact as well, isn't it, The single parent argument, it doesn't stack up. I know loads of people that would love to have custody of their kids. I'd love to be left holding the baby. Again, it's very difficult for some men, isn't it?
Yeah, well, too right. I'm delighted to say now that we've got a line to Bettina Arndt, who is based in Sydney, Australia, a campaigner for men's rights, best-selling author, countries are all over the place today, Australia's first ever sex expert. Bettina Arndt, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Do you think that we are too hard on men these days?
Oh, absolutely. I think male bashing has become a national sport in all our countries, and we constantly demonise and denigrate men in every way possible. We start off teaching little boys in schools to be ashamed of being males. We go through to universities, we teach university students that if two kids have a drunken hookup, he's always responsible and he's a rapist. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, with women's needs and women's wants promoted at the ahead of men's needs.
And how do you see a solution for this, Bettina? Well, what do you think is going to need to happen for men to be happier and better protected?
Oh, we have to do something about the control of feminists over our key organisations. I mean, if you look at, I've been writing recently about suicide. We have similar figures in Australia. 7 out of 9 people who kill themselves every day in Australia are male. And yet we have a gender-neutral suicide policy, which is madness. 4 of the 5 recipients of suicide prevention programs are women. And at the heart of that is this key issue of what happens in family breakup. Relationship breakup is the #1 cause of suicide in Australia, and feminists just won't let us go there because our whole family law system has been weaponised against men. Women can use false allegations of violence to get the man removed from the home, alienate him from the children, gain enormous strategic advantage in family court battles. And the suicide, so the health bureaucrats running our policies absolutely don't want this to be on the public agenda, don't want this to be discussed. So they refuse to acknowledge we have such a big male problem. And it applies in policy after policy area. The whole public narrative is controlled by a tiny, noisy, extremist group, and the majority of men and women don't want men treated like that way. They want fair treatment for men and women.
Kelly J, the high suicide rate among men would suggest we're not getting it right in relation to men in society.
Well, that's true. I just want to make a couple of corrections. Number one, I'm not a feminist. And number two, I don't think men that go on the front line and go into battle are weak. That is not what I said. But I don't think it's I don't think it would be the decision for any man to go and fight for their country when their country are making decisions that aren't really in the best interests of their nation. And I think that's why many men have gone to war in the past. My grandfather also served as a soldier, and so I'm certainly not saying that he was a weak man. He also stood by his duty, and he was a very valiant man in many aspects of his life, including being a manual sheepskin worker and a shepherd. So let me just correct that there and then. When it comes to the suicide rate of men, I think Jordan Peterson has got the right message, where you actually sort out your own life, you actually take responsibility, you are dutiful, you owe your wife, your children, your family, your loyalty and your trust, and you get that in return. The point about the single parent families is not just that women stay behind, it's that maybe both people don't put enough effort in, but often it is men that leave. And I don't think that too many women actually leave a happy marriage or a situation where their children become fatherless in the way that many men do. And I'm also not going to talk about the family courts. I think the family courts are absolutely dreadful for most families. I don't think many children get the right outcome from family courts. I know women in situations of terrible abuse that have to give custody to men, and I know men that are really decent fathers that don't get to see their children. But that is not the broadest picture. And in my own life, anecdotally, which I know doesn't equate to data, but in my own life, most of the women I know who are having single parent families are completely abandoned by the fathers. So that might be anecdotal, but I just think it is worth saying. When it comes to suicide, I really think society needs to address what the hell is happening to men, that they feel that that is the only solution to whatever it is they're facing. I don't know if circle time and mental health and all that stuff is necessarily good for anyone. I think sometimes you just have to get on with it and be a little bit more stoic.
I stand corrected, Kelly J, in relation to the fact that you're not a feminist. I agree with you vehemently on your position regarding trans rights. For more information about what you do, people can go to Standing for XX, which is your Twitter handle, or your website, Adult Human Female Store. Let's just finish up, Karen Strawn, if I can, with a point made by Bettina Arndt. Bettina Arndt suggested that the media have a role in this male bashing. What's your view, Karen?
Well, I know a researcher named Paul Nathanson who he was approached about 15, 20 years ago now by a fellow sociologist who had said that, we've done a content analysis of commercials on TV, and we found that in every situation where you're putting a man and a woman in competition, or even a boy and a girl in competition with each other, to sell a product, the girl or the woman always comes out on top. So who's smarter, who's more responsible, who's whatever. And Paul said, wait a minute, nothing in sociology is ever 100%. And what he did was he sat down, and he's a gay man, so he sat down with his partner for about 10 years and carefully watched TV commercials. And he said he found a total of 3, where a man and a woman, or a male, a boy and a girl were in competition, where the male came out on top, was portrayed as smarter, more competent, whatever. And so he wrote a series of books, and you can just look it up with a co-author named Catherine Young, Paul Nathanson, Catherine Young, the Misandry series. Go read it. Look at what the media has been doing for the last 20, 30 years, and look at the messaging that we're sending boys. And if you want men to act like men, you actually need to boost them a little, because boosting a man a little bit in terms of his confidence ups his testosterone level, and it starts a positive feedback loop of him actually feeling energetic and competent and confident and capable and all of that stuff. And once you grind him down into the dirt, it's really, really difficult for him to climb out of that. So,
Karen, I've been watching your videos with great interest. How can viewers find out more about what you do?
Oh, just look me up on YouTube. I'm not on Twitter anymore, at least. Well, maybe I'll be back on when Elon Musk takes it over. But I called the wrong male feminist a bad name, so they booted me off for life.
Well, do check Karen out online. Karen Straughan, Straghan. Final word to Bettina Arndt. She's on Twitter at the Bettina Arndt. Her hashtag is Men2. What are your final thoughts on this, Bettina?
Look, I think we've got a terrible problem for men in our society. And the great pity is most women don't want men treated like this. Mothers of sons, most women have men in their lives that they care about and love, and they don't like them seeing them constantly denigrated. I have women coming to me every week we have a big group of volunteers working to try to change things in Australia. We have men and women and lawyers working to protect men under attack in our universities by the campus kangaroo courts. We've got a bit of a movement happening in Australia to try to counter the current narrative and stand up for men. But we need to really encourage more people, the silent majority, to give voice and to challenge the way men are being presented in our society.
Well, sincere thanks to all three of you, in fact, all four of you. Let's not forget the man, shall we? That seems to be part of the problem. Phil Campion, SAS hero, Kelly J. Keane, writer and broadcaster Karen Straughan, and Bettina Arndt. Bettina, thanks for getting up so early. I realise it's very early in Sydney, Australia. Do join us again and have a great bike ride once you get out into the fresh air. What a lovely city you're living in. Lots more to come. My Mark Meets guest at 10 o'clock is the Queen of Clean. It is Aggie Mackenzie from How Clean Is Your House on Channel 4. We've now got the democratic result of our poll. Are men being particularly treated badly in modern society? And 71.3% say yes, and 28.7% say no. A majority believe that we are now too hard on men in modern society. Lots more to come. Next up in the news agenda with my panel, should women, talk about women now, the other half of the human race, should women have period holidays? Should they get time off if they're struggling with period pains? Also, celeb cooking fails. What's the point in going to university? Lotto wins. And once again, my Mark Meets guest, the star of How Clean Is Your House, Aggie Mackenzie, live in the studio at 10. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbury, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbury, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Is society too hard on men? Elizabeth says, "Dear Mark, women are left holding the baby because feminists destroyed the family as the foundation of civilization. They did this chiefly by removing the stigma from unmarried motherhood. The stigma was there for a reason, cruel though it seemed." I'll get to more of your emails about that. How about this? Let's hear from a bloke, shall we? Derek says, "Dear Mark, people can say what they like, but that hated national service was great at cutting the apron strings and allowing men to mature." Derek, thank you so much. A very mature email from your good self. Keep them coming. But let's get to our news agenda with several members of my panel. Women in Spain are being offered menstrual leave every month. The Spanish government is due to pass new health measures next week. But what about here in the UK? Well, a recent report recommended amending the Equality Act 2010 to ensure menopausal women are protected from discrimination and bullying at work. But what do we all think about this? Should women be given period time off from work? Delighted, obviously, to get the views of Mo Lovett, writer and broadcaster. And also sticking around for this conversation is the campaigner and presenter and commentator Kelly J. Keane. Mo Lovett, let me start with you. Should a woman be given period time off from work?
Two things I'm really uncomfortable about, Mark. When I first went for my first ever job interview, I was asked if I had a boyfriend, if I was planning on getting married, and if I was planning to have a baby. That was in 1987. There was a suggestion that as a female worker, I was entitled to divulge that kind of personal information, specifically because I was a woman and I would have to have maternity leave, right? So I'm really uncomfortable about this. One, that if I've got a pain, and let's not underestimate how bad period pains can be. They can be, and I have had to take, sort of time off because of cramps and all the rest of it. But I don't need to tell my boss that. I mean, I'm now saying it on national TV, but yeah, my boss doesn't need to know why I'm too ill to come into work. He or she just needs to know that I can't fulfil my function, and that's it. I don't want to have to start divulging all sorts of, personal information about my health.
What about 3 or 4 days guaranteed for every woman? 3 days period time, working from home, or even not working at all. Just put it in statute.
So the other point is that feminists fought to have equality in the workplace, right? That their biology wasn't a barrier to them being able to do a job as good as any man. And this seems to be a bit biological determinist, because some women don't have bad periods, right? Some women do, and they just cope with them. Men have other problems, they don't. So I think it's a biological determinism thing. I think it's taken feminism back rather than forward, and I don't think it's your boss's business what's going on in your reproductive system, quite frankly. I think, there needs to be trust between employee and employee there. If you're too sick to go into work, that should be the end of it.
Kelly J. Keane, is the issue that society is uncomfortable talking about women's time of the month?
Well, it might be, but I'm quite happy about that, to be honest. I don't want to talk about it. I don't really need numerous conversations about it. I don't want to talk to my boss about it. Similarly, I'm sure menopausal women don't want to talk about it. I mean, I totally agree that we should be able to, as mature adults, to say when we can't come in without having to explain in graphic detail why that might be. It just seems a peculiar idea. And also this idea that if we then say that periods are just this terrible, terrible thing for every single woman, which they're not, I don't know what message that delivers to our kids, that actually it should be taboo. I mean, I think bodily function should be relatively taboo, to be honest. I don't want to hear about anybody's bodily functions.
No, but men don't. Men don't.
No, it's not good.
No, Kelly J, I don't want to interrupt you and be a dominating man, but men don't suffer from period pains. They don't go through the menopause. Don't you think there should be more provision for women whose bodies are a much more sophisticated and complex chemical organism? I mean, a female body is built and designed to incubate a baby. Don't you think it's different rules for women, particularly given that period pain is not an illness?
Well, of course, it's different rules for women because we do have period pains. I just don't necessarily think that needs legislation. It just needs decent working practices and relationships with your employer. It doesn't seem, it just doesn't make any sense that there's legislation that would say women could have 3 days off a month. Well, whoopee. I'd rather have better provisions for women to have paid leave when they have to take time off for their children being ill, and some decent employment rights generally for everybody in the UK, not just women and periods.
Kelly J, we've got a double helping. Will you come and see us in the studio and be a panellist soon?
Send a car, anytime.
Definitely, we'd love to have you back. It's been too long. There you go, Kelly J. Keane and Mo Lovett, who returns in the next hour to react to our big stories of the day. Celeb cooking fails. What's the point in going to university? Big lotto wins. Is it too much money now? And next at 10 o'clock, I meet the Queen of Clean herself, Channel 4's Aggie Mackenzie. Don't go anywhere.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbury, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbury, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 10 o'clock and you are watching and listening to Mark Dolan tonight. What a cracking hour we have ahead for you. Big stories, big guests and big opinions. In 2 minutes' time, my Mark Meets guest is the Queen of Clean herself, the Channel 4 star from How Clean Is Your House, Aggie Mackenzie. Plus, in the news agenda with my all-star panel, is it still worth going to university? Is the €184 million jackpot too much money? Celeb cooking fails, and would you be willing to pay shops a fine for returning unwanted items? That's an idea being trialled by Zara. Plus, another great British game show. But first, the headlines with the squeaky clean Polly Middlehurst.
Mark, thank you. The headlines tonight. The Prime Minister will be visiting Northern Ireland on Monday amid a political standoff at Stormont. The Democratic Unionist Party today blocked the election of an Assembly Speaker. It's in protest at the Northern Ireland Protocol, which the DUP says puts peace at risk in the country. Sinn Féin leader Michelle O'Neill says the DUP's failure to cooperate leaves the government unable to function.
Not tomorrow, and not for a moment longer, can the DUP deny democracy, punish the public and boycott this Assembly and Executive and prevent us from putting money into people's pockets. Every party in this chamber told the electorate that they would turn up on day one.
Well, in other news today, Boris Johnson didn't apologise to Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe today after she described the massive impact his false claims had on her after 6 years in detention in Iran. The former British aid worker met the Prime Minister at number 10 Downing Street today. When he was Foreign Secretary in 2017, Mr Johnson said Ms Zaghari-Ratcliffe was arrested after training journalists in Iran, something the authorities there then seized upon to justify her imprisonment. The British Iranian national told the Prime Minister she'd lived for years in the shadow of his words. The UK and Norway have signed an agreement to boost security in Europe. Boris Johnson and his Norwegian counterpart Jonas Gahr say the joint declaration underscored their full support for Nordic partners to enhance regional defence. That comes as Finland announced its wish to join NATO, with Sweden deciding over the coming days. The government has cut ties with the National Union of Students after allegations of anti-Semitism within the organisation. Universities Minister Michelle Donelan has ordered the NUS be removed from all Department for Education groups. The student body will no longer receive any government funding, and that comes as an investigation was launched following a series of complaints from Jewish students. A former police officer has been found guilty of gross misconduct after trying to form an inappropriate sexual or emotional relationship with the victim of crime. PC Shiva Hidisharan got hold of the woman's phone number and contacted her several times before lying about reopening her case in order to get to her home. A tribunal has ruled the Met officer should have been sacked if he hadn't already quit the force. And Her Majesty the Queen's horse was named Supreme Champion at Day 2 of the Royal Windsor Horse Show today. The Queen was pictured looking relaxed, and Her Majesty was there to see her 5-year-old grey dun mare win. There had been speculation she might not make it to the annual event after missing the state opening of Parliament on Tuesday. It is the first major event in the Queen's Platinum Jubilee festivities, celebrating her 70-year reign. That's it on TV, online and on your radio via DAB+. You're with GB News. Now more from Mark and Tonight.
Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. Coming up, a jam-packed hour of big stories, big guests and big opinions. In just a second, the Queen of Clean herself, Channel 4's Aggie Mackenzie from How Clean Is Your House. Also this hour, we'll be asking, is it still worth going to university? Is the €184 million jackpot too much money? Celeb cooking fails, and would you be willing to pay shops a fine for returning unwanted items? That's something that Zara are now trialling, about £1.80 if you want to give back a blouse. Would you do that? Would you tolerate that? And another great British game show. Tackling all the big questions of the day is my all-star panel of SAS hero and best-selling author Phil Campion, commentator and writer Mo Lovett, I love a bit of Lovett, and reputation consultant, the best-dressed man on TV, Justin Doherty. Now, I want to hear from you throughout the show, mark at gbnews.uk. And also, let me tell you that this show is brought to you by the best team in television. Tatiana, Tom, Greg, James, the list, hundreds of people, OK, that work at this amazing company. But the very finest is Jake, one of our star directors. And it's his birthday tonight. So happy birthday to Jake, a handsome devil and a joy to work with. OK, it's time for Mark Meets. He'll put his rates up now. It's time for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, sport, showbiz and beyond. Tonight, the Queen of Clean, Channel 4's Aggie Mackenzie. A TV personality, cleaner and writer, Aggie presented the hit ITV series Storage Hoarders, in which she helped some of life's obsessive hoarders to sort the junk from the essentials whilst turning unsaleable possessions into money. But she came to nationwide attention as one of the 2 presenters of the now iconic series How Clean Is Your House? This, of course, was a show in which she starred alongside the equally combative Kim Woodburn. How Clean Is Your House was screened all over the world, and they made 2 series in America, which landed Aggie an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Just found out 39 episodes of How Clean Is Your House. TV gold. Well, Aggie is not resting on her laurels or on her toilet brush, because alongside her many media appearances, she has set up her own charity called Ukuthaza, which supports people in townships in South Africa, helping them with healthcare, education and housing. I've got to tell you, I've been dreading this encounter given the amount of dust there is in the GB News studio. But Aggie Mackenzie will do her best. Welcome to GB News.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
A thrill to have you on the programme. Look, I know it's a while since you made that show. We're not going to dwell on it exclusively because you've done lots in your life. But can I simply
Very
ask
long
you...
life.
Yeah, well, not that long by the looks of it, unless you've had work done.
No, but I am
Never.
66 now.
Are you really?
Hard to believe, I know.
You're a
Anyway,
baby. You're a baby. How clean is your house?
Good question. Do you know something? It's clean, but it's not very tidy at the moment. Shall I tell you why? I've got a new obsession and there's stuff everywhere. And it's probably something you've never heard of.
It's not X-rated, is it? You know this is a family show. Yeah. How clean is this anecdote?
It's very, very clean. I know it's late at night, but I'll keep it clean. I'll keep it clean. So now I've got this current obsession. It's called cyanotype printing. And it involves lots of wildlife and flora and fauna, and I'm picking up stuff and I'm sort of printing all this stuff and I'm collecting all the time, and there's all my surfaces are covered, and I think, wow. Oh my God, if that Kim and Aggie came to the house now, they'd be going, what's all this mess here? But it's just a temporary thing. I'll get sorted once my current obsession.
So is that a bit like what we did at school when you take leaves in autumn and press them against the card?
That's right, that's right.
And do you dip them in paint?
No, it's not paint. It's like you get card, a chemical, you dry the card, then you put your leaf or whatever it is on top, and then you put it under a UV lamp or sunlight. Oh, yes. And then you remove that thing, so you're left with the image of the leaf or whatever it is. Then you run under a cold tap your piece of card, and then you see your... I should have brought some along with me. And then you see your card. Actually, I have them in my bag, but I haven't brought them in.
Oh, we'll get the team to bring them in while we're chatting. If you wouldn't mind, Tatiana, grab, please, Aggie's bag. I'm sure you've been through it already anyway. We always go through the celebrities' bags when they're on air.
So. Do you know that thing when you fall in love? I feel like I've fallen in love with this hobby. I've never had a hobby in my life before, and I've suddenly got a hobby.
Is it art or is it craft?
Do you know what? It's not art. I went to a printing, it's a monotype printing course a couple of weeks ago, and all the other people on the course, they were all about women of a certain age. And they were all kind of had done fine art at Chelsea, sculpture at, Goldsmiths and all the rest of it. And I was like, I can't even draw a circle. Oh my God, this is going to be so humiliating. But actually, it was fine because it wasn't art. It was print. I can't draw at all, but this is my way of being creative. And the cards that I'm producing are just beautiful.
And this, you're attracted to this craft, which is obviously quite painstaking, quite fastidious. And cleaning's a bit like that. If you do it properly.
Yes, detailed, attention to detail.
Perfectionist. Is that what you are?
Yes,
You're a perfectionist?
and it's pretty, it's beautiful, and you have a nice outcome at the end of it, after all this work.
What is the point in cleaning houses? Because a dirty house never killed anyone. So why bother?
You're right. Well, I see cleaning as an evil necessity, really. If you live in a pile of poo, you feel like a pile of poo. It's just not nice, is it? and particularly if you have kids, I think it's important for kids to grow up in a tidy, ordered environment.
That's true. You don't want to normalise a messy, dirty house, because that will become the norm for them, right?
Well, that's right, exactly. And also, I think for a lot of kids, you know, kids do a lot of kind of, you know, sleeping over and, you know, bringing mates into the house. And I think I know for a lot of the children that I work with on How Clean Is Your House, they couldn't ask friends to their houses because it was a source of shame, because, you know, it's like disgusting. And, you know, it would be talked about at school and that sort of thing. So it is important.
And what about regularity? How often do you do it every week? Sorry, forgive me. So
Getting very personal, aren't we?
Aggie, you're going to get me in trouble now. What would going through? What were you going to say? Go on.
No, what I was going to say was, so there's been a thing at the recently about how often you should change your sheets. So I've done quite a lot of interviews recently on how often you should change your sheets. Well, my answer to that is really look at the mess here with the.
Yes, I have made a mess.
You've been tossing all over the place, haven't you?
I tell you what, I'm very excited actually because
this one here.
We've actually found your bag, and I think you've got some of your artwork in there.
I do. And we'll come back to...
we'll come back to your sheets very shortly.
Yes. So look, that's my artwork. And honestly, I can't draw or anything, but I'm so obsessed, and every one is original. And I just love doing this.
They're absolutely beautiful. Are you going to sell these? This is a business?
No. I just kind of giving them away, really.
I think they're absolutely lovely.
Aren't they?
There you go. I think they're very, very gorgeous.
I just love doing it, because I don't see myself as an artist, but I know that they're very artistic.
I love the colours. I think you're a very talented person. So, yeah, you were talking about... Because the whole point about the house is that it's a different timescale for different things, isn't it? So, sheets, is that once a week, once a month?
My thinking is it depends an awful lot on different factors.
OK.
Number one, how much traffic's going between the sheets.
OK.
You know what I mean?
So have you got a webcam in my house? Once a year we'll do it.
No, I'm sure not. And really how hot the weather is, and all sorts of factors. And also in COVID times, you know, if you're sweating a lot at night and feeling a bit ill, you need to change your sheets more regularly. But
what is your bare minimum?
My personal bare minimum, once a fortnight.
OK.
But, you know, depends.
What about towels?
Depends.
What about towels?
Oh,
how many goes do you get on a towel?
Towels are a sniff test, really, aren't they?
Is that it? What are you sniffing for?
Well, you know what I'm sniffing for. Just that kind of slightly sour, fusty smell that's, you know, you just don't want that.
The big thing with towels, if you hang them, like, properly after you've used them...
Exactly.
You get more out of them, won't you?
That's right. I mean, you can get a bit stiff then.
Yeah.
And as long as they don't smell, then you're fine to carry on using them.
OK. What about carpet? Carpet's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it?
It is, actually. I mean, carpets aren't really very healthy in the house. Wooden floors are much healthier. And, you know, carpets... And also, if you've got carpets, you need to be... I don't know what you do in your house, but anyone coming into the house, shoes off at the door. Otherwise, you know, particularly when you're, you know, living in a place where there's lots of dogs going up and down and they're allowed to do whatever they like on the pavement, and then you step into that, and then you bring it into the house, and then it's in the carpet. Nasty.
Is it not rude to ask people to take their shoes off? Is it not a bit snooty and middle class?
You see, I think people, when they come into the house, they should say, would you like me to take my shoes off? And then I think that's what the norm should be, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got that. Then the windows. I mean, the windows is different. That's a window cleaner, is it?
Yes. Actually, I do have a window cleaner in my house. Really, because the windows are at awkward heights. And, I couldn't get up there on my own to do them,
No.
I like doing the insides, but not the outsides.
What about dust? Because I've never understood dusters. Because aren't you just distributing the dust around the place?
No. You see, what you need to do when you're dusting... Listen to this, Mark, OK? When you're dusting, you have a very slightly damp duster. Because if you use a dry duster and flick it around, then you're just redistributing the dust around.
So I should wet my duster before I get it up?
Yes. Wring it out really tightly so that when you're skimming the surface, the dust clings to the duster. It's kind of really simple. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Chewing gum.
Chewing gum. Chewing gum's a bit of a no-no. Or, I mean, chewing gum's fine, but you don't... just throw it on the pavement.
Yes, that's...
No. No, none
That's
of
a
that.
no-no. I mean, if it goes in the carpet, you're in trouble.
You're in big trouble. And if it does, well, you give the person a big smack. Oh, we're not supposed to say that these days, are we?
I know what you mean, though. What about a firm, hard
stare? Do you want the answers to chewing gum or not? Do you?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Go, I do.
So, chewing gum. You get...
I'm afraid... Can you tell I'm paid to talk for a living?
Plastic bag full of ice cubes, get it on the chewing gum, but make it rock hard, and then get a blunt knife, and then you can chip away at the chewing gum and it'll all come out.
Last one before we talk about your amazing career and your charity.
Yes.
Red wine.
Red wine. No white wine. It's a waste of white wine, number one, and also it's just adding to all the mess. Red wine stain, immediately get soda water on there. Soda water, just absolutely drown it in soda water. And then get a clean white towel or a cloth, has to be clean, and then work from the outside in and keep dabbing. And so if you're dabbing onto the red wine will come up onto the towel and then move over to a different part of the towel, down onto, yes, and keep getting the red wine up, and honestly, it really works. It's fantastic.
So the salt is a myth, is it?
God, yes. That often will set the stain forever.
It's old wives' tale, basically.
It is.
How Clean Is Your House come about?
Well, it came about because after a discussion between a producer and a commissioner at Channel 4, just kind of shooting the breeze and talking about cleaning and, oh, yeah, how clean's your house? And how filthy are some people's houses? And that, oh, actually, that might make a good programme. Why not? And then I remember, after the first programme came out, looking at a review in one of the Sunday papers, one of the posh Sunday papers, and the reviewer was going, oh my goodness, there's this new programme presented by these two old women.
Oh, come on.
And it's about cleaning your house. How exciting does that sound? And I was reading it thinking, oh yeah, it doesn't sound very exciting at all. Anyway, you know, soon there was 4 million people watching that programme. It was amazing. It was just phenomenal. It was a real kind of, you know, it was a zeitgeist moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, you and Kim were and are the most fantastic double act.
We were.
Very complementary, very different types of personalities.
Good word, complementary. So different. Complete chalk and
Did they try you out with different people?
No, actually, I think I was in place first, and then they wanted somebody to counter me, and they couldn't have found a better person.
No. What was your first encounter with Kim like? Any first impressions? Do you remember?
Yeah, I thought, oh my God, you are so scary. And it didn't really change from there, actually.
Has it been the sort of like Lennon-McCartney dynamic where you achieve great things together, but there might have been creative tensions?
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. Yes, I'll concur with that and leave it there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you had success together, so that's a great legacy.
We did.
Are you still in touch?
N.O.
OK. Any chance of a reunion?
I don't know, really.
Would you consider it?
I'd consider it. I think we might have to have a facilitator in place. Tim's just turned 80, you know. It's amazing.
Is that right?
Yep, she just had her 80th.
That's incredible.
I know.
Well, she doesn't look it. That's remarkable.
She'll still be full of vim and vigour.
She will. Well, I'm going to be the go-between. I'll be the negotiator.
Yes.
I'll make it happen.
She'd love you. No, she'd love you.
Really? Well, let's see what we can do. It was highly entertaining, and I guess it did raise awareness for people about hygiene in the house. And it was great, very educational for people.
It was. And do you know what? It was kind of watched by all sorts of different people. Young, children, old people, white, black, working class, middle class. And it's the thing about cleaning and dirt is it's common to everyone. Whether you do it yourself or you get somebody else to do it, you have to kind of face it. It's there. It has to be dealt with.
Well, let's go to my squeaky clean panel now, because I'm delighted to say that with us in the studio, reacting to the big stories of the day and joining in this conversation is SAS hero Phil Campion. We've also got broadcaster and journalist Mo Lovett and Justin Doherty, who is a reputational management expert, among many other things. I've got to say, Justin, you look pristine tonight. How clean is your house?
Well, I'm not really responsible for cleaning my house.
Funny that.
I would say it's absolutely immaculate.
I hope it's not the wife, Justin. You'll get in trouble.
But we have to keep clean. We have to make sure our shoes are polished, and we need to make sure that our suits are clean and aren't covered in white wine or red wine when we go to work. So it's on us all.
Aggie, we've been talking about men and women tonight. Are men muckier creatures than women generally?
Absolutely no. I can't say either is worse than the other. I really can't. I've encountered both in the extremes, so no, I can't say.
Phil Campion, you've got to be really, really belt and braces about hygiene and tidiness in the military, don't you?
You do, but I was known as an admin cluster bomb. All right, I'm absolutely awful at it. It's one of the worst things I do. I was known for being a bit of a minger, to be honest, and I'm only held together because my good Wendy out there looks after me so well, if I'm honest.
Well, she's a lucky lady.
That's an honest man.
He's a very honest man. How about you, Mo? Is your place pristine?
I wouldn't say it's pristine because I've got a Labrador dog. It's never easy to keep your home clean. I'm a bit fastidious, though. I'm one of those people I can't kind of think straight if the house is a mess. I kind of, like Jordan Peterson suggests, I have to have my house ship-shape before my brain is ship-shape. But Aggie, that's so funny you mentioned about the white wine being a myth, because I once spilt red wine on a cream carpet and I immediately did the white one and wine.
Always a cream.
Yeah, it just went blue. It was horrible. What a mess.
Absolutely.
Now I know.
Aggie, you, of course, presented another hit series on your own. This was Storage Hoarders, another classic. And listen, hoarding is nearly as bad as being dirty, isn't it?
It's a different kind of thing, because with Storage Hoarders, all this stuff and clutter was a way out of the house in this place where people... It was kind of like a guilty secret, and it cost an awful lot of money for all these people who were keeping their stuff in storage. And it was always the promise of, I will get it out sometime, and then going to the storage place and opening the door and thinking, I can't face it, and shutting the door again and carrying on paying the fee. It's just a terrible waste of money. It's awful. Actually.
What is it about human psychology that makes some people hoard? Because it's a terrible compulsion, isn't it?
It is, actually. It is. It's about... Well, actually, what was quite interesting in that series was, off camera, when I got to know people a bit more, a bit better, I discovered that there was a high number of the people that we were working with who had been adopted. I thought that was really interesting, and I wondered whether it was to do with those people not having a kind of real history of their own, a proper background, and having to sort of hang on to things because that was really all that they had. That was the kind of tangible sort of representation of their lives, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's possible. The rock star Elton John said that he had a lonely childhood, which is why he's an obsessive collector. Yes. Because actually objects were his friends.
Yes, I love that film. What was it about?
The Rocket Man.
Oh, it was amazing. Amazing, so interesting.
It really was, yeah. And that's it. So that would go the same with dirty. Is that partly it might be that you just weren't raised properly, but it could also be your upbringing, your mentality, even maybe depression. I don't know what you think, because when I've got the blues, the place tends to be a bit messier and a bit dirtier.
Yeah. I think if your sort of mood is down, your spirits are low, you just can't be bothered, and then the place kind of gets into a bit of a state.
It reflects your mental state.
I think it definitely does, and I think that for some people who we worked with, they were possibly in debt or bereaved and just kind of not, or hadn't really been brought up properly and hadn't sort of felt that they deserved to live in a beautiful house that was ordered and lovely. And so there was this kind of downward spiral that was just kind of kept going down. And I remember quite a number of people, once we'd sort of got the place looking great, and actually they were sort of moved to tears and saying, nobody's ever done this for me before. I didn't kind of feel I was sort of worth it. And it's really sad, actually. A lot of sadness involved.
Justin Doherty, what's the worst stain you've ever had?
It's probably red wine all over a nice suit, and it was heartbreaking.
So I want to know, was that poured at you, Justin, or was that your own doing?
It was over a number of people.
Oh!
Listen, you've not rested on your laurels or on your toilet brush, because you've set up a charity in South Africa. What inspired that?
Well, actually, I didn't actually set it up. It was a friend of mine, who and her friends had gone out to work with children who had been orphaned by, effectively, AIDS, actually. And really, this charity was set up in order to educate children about, their health, their sexual health, about how to eat well, and it was about sort of education, really, generally. So I sponsor a child, and it's kind of in rotation, because once they sort of leave school, then it goes back to another child. And I think, it's if you can do something to help, then why not? And what I like about a small charity is that all the money goes to the purpose, rather than these big amorphous charities where there's so kind of, it's all a lot of admin.
And a big HQ in central London.
Yeah. I feel a bit queasy about that, so I'd rather my money went to somewhere that it's being used.
Ukutaza.
Ukutaza, that's right.
And it's spelled UKUTHASA.
Yeah.
So it's sort of spelled Ukutaza. Do check it out. Ukutaza. Ukutaza.org.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's been a true inspiration having you. I feel cleaner for having had you here, I've got to say. Do you fancy a bit more telly in the future?
Yes, I'm always up for telly. No, I absolutely love telly, yeah. I actually, I don't know if you know this, but I spend a lot of time... I'm actually a yoga teacher now, and I spend a lot of time doing yoga, and I'd love to kind of, introduce lots of particularly older people to yoga, because for me, I'm 66 now, I've never felt fitter, more flexible, stronger, and I think it's something that everyone should be introduced to.
Yeah, maybe you could popularise yoga in the way that you've popularised cleaning houses.
Yes. There's no limits.
What do you think? Briefly before we go, the clock's against us. Obviously, we could talk to you for hours, Aggie. But briefly, if you can, you obviously have done lots of things. You mentioned, actually, that you've worked for MI6. You were a cleaner as well. You've done millions of jobs.
Yes.
But then you became a national TV star. How did it change your life?
That's a really good question. Actually, do you know what? Not majorly, because... The funny thing is, I came from a really small village in the north of Scotland where everyone knew everyone else, OK? So then, living in London, when I became a sort of, face, a known face, and people stopped me in the street all the time, it felt like I'd kind of gone home again. It was because I thought, this is kind of fun. It's nice. I'm sort of back home in Abbeymoor again, because where everyone knows me. And it felt like, this is just natural. Yes.
Well, you're just natural as well. A privilege to meet you. Do come back and join us on the panel. Will you do that?
I would love to.
And maybe you can teach me some yoga moves as
well.
Yes,
anytime.
I'm famously bendy, Aggie, so get me in any position.
Anytime.
That's fighting talk, isn't it? My thanks to the fabulous Aggie Mackenzie. Loved every second.
Thank you.
See you very soon. Brilliant stuff. More from my panel after this. We've got another Great British Game Show, and in the news agenda, is there still any point going to university? What about those big lottery wins? This week, somebody won almost £200 million. Is that too much? What do we think? Celeb cooking fails, and would you be willing to pay a shop a fine of £2 to send back an unwanted item of clothing? Let me know your thoughts on that. Mark at gbnews.uk. Lots to get through. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbury, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbury, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Dennis has just emailed, I just spilled a can of beer listening to Aggie. How do I clean it up? She's gone. I would say lick it off the carpet, but that's the kind of reprobate that I am. Reacting to the big stories of the day, still with me, commentator and writer Mo Lovett, reputation consultant Justin Doherty, and ex-SAS hero and best-selling author Phil Campion. Now, how hard is it to cut a cucumber? Well, if you're Kendall Jenner, the reality star, the answer is very. She went viral after struggling to chop one on the latest of the Kardashians reality TV show. Take a look. So let's get rid of that strap and let's have a look at the very dangerous way that she's peeling that cucumber. I wasn't expecting to watch a video featuring one of the Kardashians and a cucumber. That's how the show has panned out. But she's risking injury there, isn't she, Justin?
She is. I'm afraid I don't know who Kendall Jenner is, but I do feel some sympathy for her because those knives can be terribly sharp.
Yeah, she's not a celebrity chef. She's an entrepreneur and reality star, but yeah, pretty dangerous. Have any of you been guilty of kitchen fails in the past? I mean, Justin, have you any disasters for you?
Yeah, a couple of times recently. My wife has been away for the weekend and I've forgotten to feed the children and they really don't like it. They moan and they scream and shout and... But, you know, it's important. It's a helpful lesson for them.
A friend of mine is a surgeon and he sees scores of people that have cut their... I think it's the gap between the forefinger and the thumb, chopping up avocados, a very middle-class accident. But yeah, lots of people almost lose a finger cutting avocados.
Yeah, it should be basic health and safety.
It should be. Have you had any kitchen fails?
I blew up some boiled eggs. I put them on to boil, went in the other rooms, carried on doing a bit of work, and all of a sudden in my kitchen I could just hear bang, bop, boom, boom, and it all boiled, and all the boiled eggs exploded. All
it makes a right mess, doesn't it?
You've done it then.
I've done it as well. Are you sure you weren't cooking up some kind of mystery potions like Breaking Bad? Are you sure that wasn't just a story and you're sticking to it?
That's just what I'm telling them.
Yeah, I've had that problem with eggs in the microwave. They explode as well.
Yeah, never
Not
put
a good
eggs
look.
in the microwave.
Maybe very unpopular in the GB News kitchen. How about you, Phil?
My worst failure food-wise was I was down in South Sudan and I was working on an oil rig, right? And there were little platforms in the middle of the river. And we ran out of food, we ran out of meat. And the rig manager, because I was a security manager, said, look, can you see if you can source some food locally, some meat? So one of the locals said, no problem, I'll send off into the village, we'll get you this food. And there's little dugout canoes coming up the river, and I'm like, I can smell something, that's awful. Do you know what I mean? This canoe's getting closer and closer, and the smell's getting closer and closer. And the meat that I actually had managed to procure was a hippopotamus's leg.
No.
And it was hacked off in this boat, and the geezer was going to try and sell it to me.
And did it still look very much like a hippopotamus's
leg? I'll tell you what, if the other option had been vegan sausage roll, the only time my life I've ever taken it.
All over it like a rash. I don't blame you. Well, we've got some major cooking fails. Take a look at these. There you go. That's a bit of a disaster in the kitchen. With a collapsed pizza. How about this one? SpongeBob, gone wrong. A sausage dog, barely edible. Blimey, what's that supposed to be? Looks like someone's just vomited onto the saucepan. Oh. Brilliant stuff. Well, let's talk about universities now, because university students in England are getting first-class degrees more than ever before because of leniency due to COVID-19. A report by the Office for Students says that it now stands at almost 40%, up from just 16% 10 years ago. That's a first-class degree. up 40%. Universities Minister Michelle Dolan condemned the unjustifiable increases and said they face fines of up to £500,000 if they don't rein in the grades. So are degrees losing their importance? And with the average debt when leaving university at around £45,000, is there any point going to university in the first place? Mo, I think we can set aside vocational careers such as law or medicine. You have to go to university if you want to do that. But what about some of those arts subjects? Is it necessary now to go to uni?
Well, I think we've sort of lost the purpose of the meaning of what university is. I mean, university is about knowledge, it's about the world, it's about the totality of the life. And I remember as a kid, if you weren't very bright, you got to do typing, like me, typing and cooking as a girl. And if you were bright, you got to do languages and you got to do philosophy and I wanted to do that. I wanted to be part of the history of the world and humanity and the best that's known and said and written about the world, and I wanted that, so I kind of booked my ideas up and went for that. And there's something to be said for that, the knowledge for its own sake, the pure joy of understanding, and that's very different to vocational education, which is about getting a job. Right, and people have to make those choices. But I think what's happened with the university sector is it's become very instrumentalised and it's become very grade-focused and exam-focused. And that's why you see this, everyone gets prizes and more firsts and A-level results going up and up and up and up, because it's about the end result, the grade, rather than the joy of knowledge. And I think we need to... I know there's a lot of people talk about vocational education. I know there's a lot of people think that we need better skills in the economy. And I agree with both those things. But knowledge for its own sake, I wouldn't like that to throw that out, that kind of baby out with the...
You think there's a certain value to doing a subject which won't necessarily get you a job, it just develops you as a human being?
I think there is, and that was the original purpose, and it was only open to the elites. Do you know what I mean? It was only open to the children of the elites, that they were the ones that had their horizons broadened and they could make decisions about the world.
And they could study history or classics.
Because they were destined to rule. So I'm really concerned that we don't sort of make sure that working class kids don't get those experiences as well, because as we were talking about earlier, ordinary people are perfectly capable of coming out with great ideas that make society better.
Everyone's got a right to a useless degree?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think? You're nodding vigorously. Did you go to university?
I did, and I read classics, and it was marvellous. And I had 3 fabulous years. And you know what? It's very fashionable for people to say, you know what, people shouldn't go to university and it costs all this money. Let people go to university. It's absolutely fabulous. 3 of the best years of your life. It's where you leave home for the first time, you study, you make friends, you drink for 3 years, you do all sorts of things that you've never done in your life before, and it's absolutely fabulous. And you know what? You learn about life, and you learn about how to grow up, and you get to the last year, and suddenly you've got some finals coming up, and gosh, you know... You
learn about pressure.
You've got to cope with pressure, and you've got to cram, and you've got to get your degree. And then, you know, you do have to pay for it. And, of course, you know, this is the real world. This is life. So bring it on. Let people go to university.
And how do my viewers who either haven't been to university or are just, you know, paying for others to take these degrees that won't necessarily lead to a career? I mean, why should the taxpayer be indulging youngsters in this way?
Well, I don't think the taxpayers should. I think university students pay for their education. They have tuition fees and they take a student loan, and of course, you know, graduates pay that.
There's still a percentage of the cost of university that comes out of the public purse, isn't there?
Yeah, I think there is. I don't know the exact figures, but you know, I think it's important to give everybody that opportunity. And to Mo's point,
that's the big thing. It's the opportunity. You know, I left school for cycle proficiency. That was all I got, and I had no chance of ever doing some of the stuff that young people do today. You know, as my position of head of an organisation which has youth on the mind, you know, the Cadet Force, I would never discourage a child from doing the best they could. And if that means a degree which is maybe not deemed as one of the classics, it's still a degree. And they've still learnt how to put things together and construct stuff. You know, and you see repeatedly in the army, you'll see, you know, maybe captains and that who've got degrees such as marine biology. A friend of mine has a marine biology degree. He's a captain in the parachute regiment. His structure and knowledge of how to put paperwork together and all those management skills have been learnt in university. So it's not... I would always say to a child, if you can aspire to it, if you can do it, go and do it. And don't let anybody tell you it's a second-class degree. It's not. It's your degree. You'll get from it what you put in. Do you know what I mean? So that's to be encouraged. I'd never knock anybody down for trying to educate themselves.
Yeah, Justin, do you still remember the classics? How are you getting with Amat? Do you still read it for pleasure or not?
Not so much, no.
But it's in you, it's part of you.
But I tell you what it is, the brain is a muscle, and you exercise that muscle over your 3 years, you go to lectures, you learn a language, you think, you study. That's what's important.
Yeah, fascinating. What do you think? Is university worth the money, particularly with that issue of the value of the university grade? If that many people are getting firsts, does it still mean what it once did? Well, we've got some examples of celebrities who did not go to university for whom things turned out quite well. Here's Lord Alan Sugar. And he is actually worth, wait for it, £1.04 billion. Simon Cowell is worth he can't be worth £325,000. I think he's worth more than that.
He's spent for lunch.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think he's got Jimmy Carr's accountant. Richard Branson is worth £5 billion. Bill Gates, £90 billion. Mark Zuckerberg, £63 billion. None of them went to university. Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard. So there you go. Well, different strokes for different folks. Next up, another great British game show, again based around the news. Can you recognise the bald celebrity from their bald pate? Also, we'll talk about lotteries next. When is too much money really too much? This week, somebody won almost £200 million in the Euro jackpot. Is that too much? What do we think about that? Lots to get through. See you shortly.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbury, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbury, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Charles has emailed the programme, is there any point going to university? And he says, Dear Mark, we need some commercial feedback. So if students doing degrees in useless subjects don't pay back their loans, we penalise the university that offered the courses in sports event management or Taylor Swift studies by removing funding. You know that the best bit of my show is when you get in touch. Thanks for all your emails tonight. It's been such a busy programme. I wish I'd had time for more of them. I'll see if I can get to a couple shortly. Big reaction to my interview with Aggie Mackenzie. Another great guest, says Declan. Really a great character, and you'll see more of her on this show in the weeks to come. But if you're enjoying GB News, if you're enjoying Mark Dolan tonight, then tell your friends, tell your family, and let's change the world together. Now, let's crack on with our news agenda. We've got the game coming very shortly, a topical game show. But first, reacting to more stories of the day, commentator and writer Mo Lovett, reputation consultant Justin Doherty, and ex-SAS hero and best-selling author Phil Campion. A jaw-dropping jackpot of £184 million. That's right, almost 200 million quid has been won by a lucky ticket holder in the UK. Overnight, it's made them almost as rich as world-renowned musician Ed Sheeran. Imagine, you get Ed Sheeran's money overnight. Almost Mick Jagger. Of course, it's always a long shot, but you can still win it. But is that amount of money, 200 million, just too much? And should a cap be introduced and spread perhaps across more winners? What do we think, Phil?
No, I don't. I think you know, the extremely lucky person that won that has been extremely lucky. I don't think a cap would help it at all. I think, you know, you win what's on offer, and that's the way the game works.
But imagine if 200 people won £1 million.
I don't know. It wouldn't be. The whole thing of this thing is, look, and I had this conversation with my missus the other day. What would you do if you won that much? I've never had a conversation. What would you do if you won $1 million? Do you know what I mean? $1 million, actually, in today's prices, once you bought your house and a car, you haven't got to change stuff, do you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not me being... That's a truth.
And once Rishi Sunak's had his cut...
No, the dream is the big one, isn't it? The dream is the, like, boom, and it comes, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A boat comes in
It's
properly.
the idea of life-changing money, Mo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, I don't play the lotto. I probably should. I might do after this now. But it's that thing of, like, what would I do with that money? And the fact that somebody ordinary, somebody, you know, going about their business can suddenly have their life changed in that way. I mean, I think it's quite a hell of a responsibility as well to have that sort of money.
If you just won that money, right? So if, say, the geezer that's won it, or the woman that's won it now steps in here and said, I'll tell you what, mate, stick that to one side, I'll give you $1 million instead. You ask him what difference it is. I'm telling you,
it's true. It's significant. I always worry, Justin, about if I, you know, you have this daydream of winning the lottery, and I always thought the concern is that you win this money and you buy, let's say you buy a relative or a friend a Ferrari, and then they crash that Ferrari and they break their leg or something worse happens. It's actually your fault. So it's actually, having that money is a bit of a burden. I don't know what the best way to spend it would be.
I mean, what a wonderful opportunity. What an opportunity to use that money for lots of good purposes and good causes. And as you say, you know, 200 people, £1 million, or 200 charities, £1 million. Now, there is a problem because what large amounts of money do people is make them go slightly mad, and, you know, it can have a corrupting influence. And we see that in the corporate world just as much as we do everywhere else. And I think, you know, what an opportunity to do some good in the world. I think there should be one thing, though. I think the person should have to spend it in their lifetime. Because what happens is when this dynastic money sets in from generation to generation, it's not good for the kids and the generations to come. If you look at what people like Sting, what Buffett, what others done, they're not handing their money on to their children. They're making it all go in their lifetimes. And I think that should be the thing that they do.
My only concern with it at all is that when these larger jackpots come into play, people absolutely throw their hand in to try and get it, you know what I mean? To try and win it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes, you know, you can only gamble what you can afford. That's the rule, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Don't play with it if you haven't got it. And I just feel that sometimes when these bigger ones are on offer, people are like, right, OK, under the sofa, do you know what I mean? And they lump on, do you know what I mean? And that's when that's the only problem I would see out of it.
I've got it all worked out when I win the lotto, OK, which is that... Because I think it's a responsibility to give people money, because then stuff could happen in their life. It could backfire somehow. For example, you make your sister rich, and then, I don't know, for some reason it destroys her marriage. You know, I don't want to influence people's lives in that way. Unexpected consequences. So I would do a simple thing. Loved ones and friends, I would simply cancel their debt. So I'd call family members and go, what's your mortgage? 100 grand, that's cleared. So I would remove debt, because that's a sort of a passive way of giving people money. What do you think?
That's really nice. And I'll tell you what's really nice about that. I think a lot of people don't really care about being mega, mega rich. I mean, we all like to dream, but actually what really cripples people is debt. So I like that idea. Yeah. It's the fear of being in debt that kind of ruins people's lives.
For me, show me someone that has no debt and you show me a rich man.
Yeah.
You know, that most people, especially at the moment, you know, credit cards, overdrafts, people are really going through hell. And I think that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Maybe Rishi Sunak could clear our debts. There's a thought. Look, we're going to talk about money, if we can, very briefly now, and this is in relation to going shopping. Fashion giant Zara has now started to charge a fee of £1.95 for refunds if you return online items. This is partly due to profits suffering from the pandemic, but some other firms, such as Next, already do this. According to returns specialist Rebound, 1 in 3 fashion items bought online are sent back. So will a charge for refunds become the new norm? Is it acceptable? What do we think, Justin? Do you give things back?
No, I've never done that.
You liar.
It's not really... I don't know. I mean,
it's my hobby.
It's
buying stuff I don't need and sending it back.
If the retailer wants to do it, you know, that gets factored into the buying decision. If they don't, it doesn't.
The problem with online purchase is that you don't know if it's going to suit you or fit you. That's the issue, isn't it? And so that's why people buy either more items than they need.
I don't think I've ever bought clothes online, so I really
right?
buy books.
Do you not remember the
You
mail
mean
order
you were
catalogues?
actually like in the shop when you bought that suit?
Well, my tailor. my tailor.
Is it very dark in the shop? I'm only kidding. You look fabulous. He looks fabulous, as do you. To some people, honestly, I'm a devil for buying more items than I need in the knowledge that some of them will go back. Am I a bad man?
It's not something I do. I will go to a shop and buy something. I'm the same. I don't do the online shopping thing at all.
Is that right?
I like to see the item. I like that, I like to feel it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to get them to order something in because I'm so big, and they'll say, "Oh, we don't do that in the 5XL," and then I'll have to go back down and try it on or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But I like to see it first. I like to try it before I buy. Do you know what I mean? I want to know what I'm getting.
Mo, can I be sexist for a second? I wonder whether it's quite often females that buy lots of things online and send it back. I certainly know people in my life who are female who are of that nature.
But I remember when we were teenagers, right, and our mums all had like the Freeman's mail order catalogues and stuff, and you'd order the party dress, you'd wear it once, give it a quick sponge down and send it back, right? And I reckon...
In your case, Mo, it would need boiling, wouldn't it?
No, that is over the line. But I reckon I bet young people do that today.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, exactly. It's the ultimate fast fashion. Wear it once and send it back. There you go. But £2 for refunds, I'm sure that will put people off. Look, it's time now for the Great British Game Show, a highly competitive game based around a news story of the day. A court case has ruled that calling someone bald is now a form of sexual harassment. So we're going to play a game of The Bald Truth. Can our panel and you at home name these follically challenged celebrities by their heads alone? Let's start with this one. Celebrity number one. Who could that be, folks?
Oh, it's Mike Tyson, yeah.
Let's have a look. It is Iron Mike Tyson. Absolute hero of mine. What a boxer. OK, whose bald pate is this?
Is that Sajid Javid?
It's not Javid, it's not the Health Secretary, it's not Duncan Goodhue.
It was my boiled egg.
A bit North American actor. In fact, probably the most bankable movie star in the world. He used to be, I think, a wrestler. His name is named...
The Rock, is it?
It is The Rock. It is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Handsome devil.
God, I was well.
OK, how about our next bald celebrity? Oh, God, I'll get a slap for this one.
You can say it.
I know, I can't.
It is Will Smith's wife.
Will Smith's wife,
Jada Pinkett Smith. Look at the rather fake
Who
grin
says we're
there
not
from
sexist on the show? We couldn't even remember her name. That's terrible.
Very naughty, isn't it? OK, here's our next celebrity. And,
that's
beam me up, Scotty.
Oh, Murdoch.
That's Hill, isn't it?
No, it's not Rupert Murdoch.
That's Henry Hill.
It is not Henry Hill.
Is it?
No, it's not Henry Hill. It does look... You mean Harry Hill?
Harry Hill, that's
it
the one,
looks
that.
like Harry Hill.
Yeah.
In fact, it is... the clue is beam me up, Scotty.
Well, I thought Patrick Stewart, yeah.
It is
yeah.
Well done. The points go to you. It is Patrick Stewart, who is another very, very fine-looking man. How about this? Who could
Ming
this
the
be?
Merciless.
No, it's not. It's not Michael Gove either.
It's not that girl from earlier. That's not her boyfriend, is it? This isn't the alien that she was dating, is it?
No, think... well, it could be, but it's not. think Star Wars. Think George Lucas.
Is it Yoda?
It is Yoda.
Goodness me.
Indeed, he needs a bit of a wig, doesn't he? Follically challenged in the extreme. OK, how about this actor? He's worked with Tarantino. He used to be a heroin addict.
Samuel...
Yes, Samuel L. Jackson. Well done. Pulp Fiction, The Hateful Eight and Avengers.
Nice specs.
OK, what about this guy? This is a guy we give all our money to.
Bezos.
Yes, and he accepts free refunds. I think he's lost his hair because of the cost of all of the refunds that he's had to give people during the pandemic. How about this, a very spiritual figure?
Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama. How about this? A very funny man indeed. Well, the Dalai's funny, but this guy...
That's your Harry Hill, isn't it?
He might have been mentioned earlier.
Henry Hill.
Henry brackets Harry Hill. TV Burp, one of my absolute heroes. Very funny man indeed. And last but not least, an action hero married to a supermodel called... forgotten now, she's got a posh name. Tatiana, you'll know her name. Who's he married to? That very leggy blonde lady. What Huntington thingamajig?
I know it, but I can't think of his name.
He is... nicknamed the Stath. It is Fast and Furious star Jason Statham. Thanks to my amazing panel tonight. To you for your company at home. We're back tomorrow at 9 with more brilliant guests and stories. Thanks to my amazing team. Stick around because I'm doing headliners next. Tomorrow's papers. See you shortly.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGiven from the Met Office. Winds in the north ease overnight, cloud clears, and then for most, It's a sunny Saturday and it will feel warm as well as high pressure builds from the south, pushing the weather fronts that have plagued the far north during Friday, pushing those out of the way, and the isobars begin to open up as well. And so by Friday evening, actually, the winds are easing and skies are clearing across a good part of Northern Ireland, southern and eastern Scotland.